Oh, God. Oh, my God.
Hit the intro.
Ugh.
I have a question. Every week I see people in the comments saying that they don't actually watch Batwoman. They've never watched Batwoman. Lucky you. They just really like my Batwoman videos. So this question is not for them. This question is for any poor, unfortunate masochists out there who have chosen to try to endure this show with me and thus know the living hell that only I and my fellow Batwoman reviewers know. Was it my imagination, or was that the longest hour of television you have ever seen? My God, that thing just would not end! I had it on DVR, and even fast-forwarding through all the commercials, this shit felt like it was 4 hours long! People thought the Loki season finale was slow-paced. That episode passed in a blink of a fucking eye compared to what I just watched. I don't understand how something like this happens. The big cliffhanger last week was Marcus waking up. The implication being that once he got loose, he might, do something. And he does, sort of, but that's not what the episode is about. What it's about is our cast of insufferable, slack-jawed dipshits whining and whining and whining and whining and whining about their personal bullcrap that I couldn't care less about if you put a gun to my fucking head. There's 3 episodes left in the season, counting this one, and I swear to God, absolutely nothing is happening. This was so fucking boring, they even managed to make me not care about 2 hot chicks having a lesbian sex scene. Though I'm sure all the horny preteens are fapping their hands raw right now, but honestly, I just hit fast forward through that too because it was the last scene of the episode and I just couldn't take anymore. Speaking of, let's get through this episode as fast as we can because I'm hanging by a thread here and I can't be done with it soon enough. The episode begins with Rachel Maddow. Jesus Christ, how much could they conceivably be paying her to keep doing this? Rachel, you've got a cushy gig at MSNBC. I'm sure you're doing very well for yourself. Why do you keep associating with this farce? You can't possibly need the money that badly. Are they blackmailing you or something? Holy shit! So she reminds us about how Jada Jet spilled the beans that Batwoman was responsible for all the Batvillain weapons going missing and all the resulting shenanigans. Not that that's been a major issue, really, it hasn't. It was a thing in like 3 or 4 episodes in the first half of the season, and the body count hasn't been any higher than normal for this town, so what's the big deal? As I predicted, they just kinda gloss over how Jada knew about this. Maddow just says that it's unclear how Jada knew and she doesn't speculate, but she does still believe Jada despite the complete lack of evidence. Top-notch investigative journalism right there. Just riveting stuff. Ryan and Mary race to the illegal underground abortion clinic, apparently stopping on the way so Mary could take the time to dye her hair back to its normal color because Luke informs them that the water damage from when Poison Ivy messed with the Gotham Dam in the last episode caused the clinic to take on some leaks. And that's a problem because the dumbasses left Marcus at the clinic completely unguarded and unrestrained. And sure enough, when they get there, Marcus is already long gone. But he left behind a present for them. A creepy talking doll with a recording saying, "Now that I know who you are, I know who I can hurt one by one. Ha 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 ha." Where the hell did Marcus get a creepy talking doll? Beats me. I only ask because that doll is bound to be a lot more interesting than anything else that's gonna happen here. To my genuine surprise, Mary says this is all her fault. Helping Poison Ivy, telling Marcus all their secrets, putting everyone's lives in danger. Vapid, self-obsessed narcissist of the highest order, Mary Hamilton, is actually blaming herself for things she did wrong. I know, right? It's the closest thing the episode gets to any sort of redeeming value, but as usual, I can't even enjoy it for that because all Mary's friends are bending over backwards to let her off the hook for it. It was the infection, Mary. It wasn't the real you, Ryan tells her. Oh, screw you. Has it occurred to you, Ryan, that a healthy dose of humility, self-reflection, and crushing guilt is something Mary could really benefit from? Of course not. Look who I'm talking to. So Ryan tries to buoy Mary's spirits by saying they'll fix the Joker's joy buzzer and undo the damage done to Marcus, and because this show is made by idiots for idiots, it really is that easy. They just don't know how to make the buzzer work. Cut to the Bat Bar. And yes, that is what they're calling it. They're inspecting the buzzer, which Luke tells us got chucked into the river after spending 13 years in cryo-freeze, which is not what happened. It wasn't frozen, Batman just locked the thing up with the other weapons. I don't wanna grow up. I'm a retcons are us kid. So they have no idea how to fix this thing. Luke's dad might know, but Mary gave the Batwing suit AI to Marcus, which Mary says she's sorry about, and which Luke can't say is not her fault fast enough. Ugh. With that option off the table, Alice says that they should go to the person who built the joy buzzer in the first place. Because, you see, the Joker didn't actually make any of his wonderful toys. To the shock of absolutely everyone, I'm sure, they were made by a woman, Kiki Roulette, who might be a character from the comics, might not, I really didn't care enough to check. They tracked down a possible alias using her glasses prescription of all things, and then Mary volunteers to go after her. She says they're talking about fixing Marcus's diseased brain with a children's toy, so a doctor should probably be involved here. And that might make sense if the show made sense, but it doesn't, so this doesn't. Mary, unless your MD, and I use that term very loosely, is in neurology, sit your ass down. Not only does Ryan agree to this, she tells Alice to go with her, because they just spent several episodes trying to get Mary away from Alice, so putting them back together is exactly what Mary needs right now. Ryan's reasoning is that Marcus still thinks Mary and Alice are Bat villains, except as far as you know, Marcus has no idea you're going after the creator of the joy buzzer, so this is just nonsense you contrived to put Mary and Alice back together because that's what the plot needs to happen. Meanwhile, Sophie just wants to talk about how Ryan's been pushing her away after she kissed Ryan the other night. And you better get used to that because it's the only thing Sophie's gonna be talking about in this entire episode. And that's really stupid because as far as I can see, Ryan's not pushing Sophie away, she's just focusing on the mission for a change, which is what our f***ing crime fighter is supposed to do, so naturally, it's being framed as her ignoring her feelings because people's feelings are the top priority here rather than that silly business of stopping a murderous sociopath. Then Marcus appears on the TV. He's holding a press conference outside Arkham, not so subtly dressed like Arthur Fleck from that movie about a Batman character people actually like. He talks about what does it say about their city that it's protected by someone dressed like a bat who hides from the public and has no accountability, and how many more people have to pay the price for Batwoman's insanity. And this is meant to be Marcus just acting like an evil, manipulative, vindictive prick, but considering all the criminals Ryan and Kate have let go free in the last 3 years, thus giving those criminals the chance to commit many more crimes and kill many more people, Marcus is actually making a damn good point here. All things considered, between the two of them, the Batwomen have almost certainly caused more murders than they've ever prevented, a detail which seems completely lost on the ass clowns who write this drivel. Marcus teases revealing Batwoman's secret identity but doesn't. Then he says that if Batwoman won't take responsibility, then he will. So he's entered into a partnership with the city and is going to be pouring money into Arkham so all the criminally insane inmates can finally get the help they so desperately need. You'll never believe where that's going. Get this. It's only now that Luke decides that they need to expose this guy. It's only now that Luke considers that Marcus murdered a Wayne security guard in Bruce's office and several doctors in the Jetorian lab. There's gotta be video of that somewhere. Well, Yeah, so why Luke didn't think of this several episodes ago is anyone's guess. Sophie says Marcus scrubbed all that video. Bullshit. So Ryan thinks Jada might have the proof they need, because Jada seems to have some kind of leverage over Marcus to keep herself safe. Cut back to Arkham, where we find out that Marcus's big plan for this place is a work release program. Yeah, he's gonna let out all the killers and rapists and anarchists and psychopaths and just put them to work. I'm sure he'll have no trouble getting Killer Croc to comply with this. Now, there is one doctor who sort of half-heartedly points out that these are very bad, very dangerous people, and that's literally all the opposition the idea gets. Marcus intends to empty all the padded cells and release the scum of the fucking earth back into the city, and not the mayor, not the GCPD, not the innocent citizens of Gotham who are about to be put in horrible danger because of these monsters have a single fucking objection to it. Marcus is freeing every inmate in Arkham, and it happens so hilariously quickly and easily, you'd think this was satire. Then Marcus walks right into the cell of Victor Zsasz, and they hit it off instantly. Yeah, you know Victor Zsasz? That villain from that season 2 episode who was actually kind of fun? He wasn't written well, but the actor was so good, he actually did manage to give that character a legitimate cool factor. Don't get excited though. If you think that has any chance of happening again, well, the writers are gonna make damn sure it doesn't. Cut to Alice and Mary driving up to some halfway house or boarding house or something where they think Kiki Roulette might be, and Mary asks Alice if living with the things she's done ever gets easier and to not tell her that this wasn't her fault. Alice says that everyone keeps telling Mary that it's not her fault because they think she's too emotionally fragile to handle the truth. And the truth is that it's totally Mary's fault. Thank Christ somebody's finally saying it. And the bitch of this whole thing is, I do kind of agree with the others. Mary wasn't really acting that differently from the way she normally is, but she was under the influence of a supervillain and technically wasn't in her right mind, or at least that's what they told us. So blaming her for that stuff isn't 100% fair, I guess, but f*** it. This might be the one and only chance we ever get to see Mary feeling some sort of guilt or regret for literally anything she's done. So slap my ass and call me Sally, you'd better believe I'm gonna enjoy this while I can. Alice's sage advice to Mary is that she should bury her feelings deep down, tell herself that people die all the time, and that the guy she killed probably deserved it anyway. And that sounds very unhealthy, but if it means I don't have to hear about this anymore, I'm tempted to sign off on it. Mary's response to this is saying that she's not a sociopath. Thin ice, Mary. Very thin ice. The woman they talk to says Kiki Roulette left some time ago, but Alice doesn't buy this, so she whips out her knife, which I guess Team Batwoman gave back to her because what could possibly go wrong by doing that? And turns out this woman is Kiki Roulette, played by Judy Reyes from Scrubs, who really deserves to be in something better than this. Put her name right next to Bridget Regan's on the list of actors who are slumming it on this show for reasons I'll never understand. Cut to the Bat Bar, where Luke is getting ready to break into Wayne Tower to search for the Batwing AI after Ryan told him not to. Sophie wants to go with him, and he's like, hell no, you suck at everything. Well, that's not the actual reason, but God knows it should be. The actual reason he gives is that he doesn't want to put whatever she is to Ryan in danger. And this starts Sophie complaining again about how her and Ryan kissed and blah blah blah, and finally Luke just gives in and lets her come along because she's a woman and he's not allowed to stand up to her. Cut to Ryan walking into Jada's office. She suspects that Marcus probably had a hand in his father's mysterious death, and maybe Jada just happens to have that on video since she was so keen to document Marcus's descent into madness when he was growing up, and she urges Jada to turn the video over to the authorities and stop protecting Marcus because, you know, he's a murdering sociopath. Speaking of murdering sociopaths, Victor Zsasz walks in and shoots Jada's assistant dead. Oh my god, Jada says, sounding so fucking bored it's like she's struggling to stay awake. I sympathize. Zsasz is there for the same thing Ryan's there for. He gets the video, destroys it, and he talks to Ryan like they're old buddies, because Ryan has spent a lot of time around criminals. Remember that? Well, it's a thing again. for the next 2 scenes. And it's at this point that a switch flips, and the episode becomes so goddamn intolerable, and the pacing becomes so ungodly slow that I'm gonna have to start condensing this stuff for the sake of my sanity. So I hope you'll excuse me if I don't go over every single little detail, but from here to the end, like 95% of this shit is just people whining about their feelings. So I think the abridged version will suffice. Anyway, this is the moment where Victor Zsasz inexplicably changes from insane deadly serial killer to Ryan Wilder Jada Jet fanboy. I shit you not, he starts marveling at how amazing it is that the two of them found each other and became titans of business who stormed the corporate patriarchy, and Jesus Christ, he goes on about this for quite a while. Eventually, he does mention that he's there to kill Jada, but holy shit, he will not stop talking about how awesome they both are long enough to actually do it! But finally, he says that he's also there to kill Batwoman, so he left her a note on the bat signal. I guess the infamous serial killer Victor Zsasz just got to walk right through police headquarters and got access to the bat signal because of that handy-dandy work release. This show. So he's giving Batwoman 1 hour to show up, and until then, I guess he's just gonna sit there hoping that no one in the building heard that gunshot that went off in the office a minute ago. And apparently, no one did. Cut back to Kiki's house, and she seems unusually sane and rational for a person who used to make gadgets for supervillains. Maybe she can fix the buzzer, but all her tools are at the Joker's old workshop, and she really doesn't want to go back there, because she's worked so hard for a decade and a half to put that all behind her and make up for the damage she's done. Alice thinks this is an act, Kiki says it isn't, and to prove it, she's going to bite the bullet and fix the buzzer anyway. Then we cut back to Jada's office for a scene that I honestly thought was never going to fucking end. The Cliff Notes version, because I cannot in good conscience subject you to the whole thing, is that Ryan and Jada spend a goddamn eternity whining about their personal bullshit while Zsasz is just eating all this up like a 50-something housewife glued to a soap opera. Ryan bitches about how Jada paid $2 million to cover up her birth, but Jada says that she was in a tough spot, but she always loved Ryan and thought she was doing a good thing for her and leaving her with good people, and the money was actually for her, and she was pushing Ryan away to protect her from Marcus. So, after about 10 hours of this, their time is up. Batwoman's a no-show, obviously, so Zsasz is about to kill Jada, but Ryan grabs a letter opener or something off the desk, throws it at Zsasz, gets him in the shoulder. They proceed to have a fight that lasts maybe 10 seconds, and it ends with Ryan knocking Victor Zsasz unconscious like a punk with one punch. And this is why you shouldn't bother getting excited about these things. Victor Zsasz is a fun character, and the actor is awesome at performing fight choreography, but God forbid they do anything cool with that at all. It's as if they went out of their way to deliberately make him as lame as possible. And he's a white male, so that's not surprising. Also, Jada somehow deduces from this fight that Ryan is Batwoman. Yay. Then we cut to the Joker's workshop, and oh my god, every single person responsible for this should feel embarrassed by how cheap it looks. It's an empty room with a couple shelves lit by colored LED lights and one desk. That's it. Apparently, Mr. J became a minimalist before Batman murdered him. Alice looks around, and she finds a teddy bear that Kiki once put a grenade in that killed a bunch of people, including some kids. Mary asks her how she moves on from something like that, and Kiki says she doesn't. She lives with it every day, and she made all the excuses, but there was no escaping from all the pain she caused, so her therapist insisted that she do the hard work to accept responsibility for what she'd done, and that accepting responsibility didn't include going to the police and confessing her crimes should have raised a red flag here, but every character on this show is an idiot, so it doesn't. Cut to Batwing and Sophie breaking into Bruce's office by coming in via the roof. Basically what Ryan should have done in the party episode, but didn't because she wanted to do it the stupid way instead. Okay, a couple things about this. First, Luke could very easily fly Sophie in, but he doesn't. Instead, he gives her a grappling hook gun so she can zipline in herself, making the whole thing that much harder. There's absolutely no reason to do it this way, except that Sophie needed to have that gadget so a later scene could happen. Second, they break into Bruce's office so easily it's laughable, rendering the entire A-plot of the party episode completely f***ing pointless. And third, I want to smack Luke in the head for letting Sophie come along, because once again, she spends the entire goddamn scene whining about Ryan and their relationship. How Ryan's really frustrating Sophie. How Ryan is so hard for Sophie to read. How long Sophie has had a crush on Ryan. It's just, over and over with this shit. She will not shut up about it. For God's sake, woman, you're trying to stop a sociopathic murderer here. Is it really too much to ask for you to stay focused on the mission for 5 minutes? After a lot of whining, Sophie finds the AI, then they figure they should poke around on Marcus's computer while they're there. Whatever. Back in Jada's office, Zsasz is being taken away like a chump in handcuffs you'd think he'd be able to easily break out of, talking about how Ryan and Jada's emotional breakthrough bullseyed him right in the feels. You writers. And then Ryan and Jada spend a second goddamn eternity bitching at each other about their personal bullshit because for some reason Ryan has nothing better to do whatsoever right now. Jada came after Ryan and came after Batwoman, which has got Ryan all kinds of butthurt, and she doesn't think a sob story makes up for that. She thinks Jada never cared about her at all, and she just wanted a mom and someone to walk her to her first day of kindergarten, and Jesus fucking Christ, I don't care about any of this. Just get the f*** over it and go fight crime before the sociopathic killer murders someone else, you unfathomable lord of all jackasses! So Jada validates Ryan and talks about how amazing Ryan is for achieving all this when Jada gave her nothing, and I gave Marcus everything and look how he turned out. Oh yeah, that's probably due to Marcus being a man because men suck. I'm sure the traumatic brain injury had nothing to do with it at all. So this whole experience has made Jada think that the best thing she ever did for Ryan was stay out of her life. Then Sophie calls to tell Ryan that Marcus is turning the Arkham inmates into his own personal security force, and also they broke into Wayne Tower after Ryan told them not to, which makes Sophie a bad girl who misbehaved. A very naughty girl who's gonna be in need of some discipline, Ryan, assuming she can stop bitching about Ryan long enough to receive it. And then Luke finds out that Marcus has been in contact with Kiki. What a twist. So Kiki finishes fixing the joy buzzer, but it's only got one zap left in it. Also, now that it's working, she's not sure how much longer Marcus will need Alice and Mary alive. And then she starts laughing like an evil cartoon character as a bunch of gun-toting thugs walk in. Wow, who would have thought that a woman who used to make weapons for psychotic supervillains would be untrustworthy? Back at Wayne Tower, Luke is trying to clone the computer's hard drive when Marcus and more thugs walk in. And what follows is one of the more painfully awkward sequences this show has done in some time. Kiki mentions that her therapist was Harleen Quinzel, if that means anything. Batwoman walks in, then Marcus calls Kiki and she puts him on speaker, so we're cutting back and forth between these two scenes. Marcus again threatens to reveal Batwoman's identity, though she says he won't because of how embarrassing it would be for him, because she's accomplished so much with nothing while he's accomplished very little with everything. Not sure how true that is, but okay. Then he gets ready to kill Batwing and Sophie. Now think about this, alright? Marcus's thugs are not heavily armed. A couple of them have hammers, and Marcus has a pistol, I think. That's it. Luke is wearing powered armor that gives him super strength, enhanced fighting abilities, and is almost certainly bulletproof. The writers are trying to present this scene as if it's a big, tense, dramatic moment where the good guys are in big trouble, but they're not. We know they're not. Luke is in no danger here. He could very easily obliterate these thugs in seconds. So really, the bad guys are the ones who are in trouble, and everyone knows it except the writers. So not surprisingly, the whole scene just falls flat on its face. So Sure enough, Team Batwoman turned the tables on these guys like they've all got the fight scene cheat codes. Sophie whips out the grappling hook gun and shoots Marcus with it. That was the only reason she had to have it earlier. Marcus goes down. That's the last we see of him here. Then Batwing and Sophie proceed to absolutely destroy these clowns, proving that they were never in any danger here at all. Meanwhile, Ryan, Alice, and yes, Mary too, if you can believe that, do the same thing with the thugs on their end. Also, it's not clear what happens exactly because of the camera angle, but in one shot, it almost looks like Mary slashes a guy's throat, or stabs him in the throat with a pen or something. Jesus, that came right the hell out of nowhere. Anyway, it's fucking pathetic how easily resolved this whole thing was. The only thing worth noting is that Kiki escapes during the fight, and Marcus also escapes, but for much stupider reasons. When last we saw Marcus, he went down after Sophie nailed him with the grappling hook gun. We saw him go down, not like that. We saw him lying on the ground during the fight, and we did not see him escape. So after the fight, which was over in a matter of seconds, I have to assume he was still just lying there on the floor unconscious. But since Marcus is still walking around free at the end of the episode, based on the information the show gives us, the only way to interpret this is that after Luke and Sophie won the fight, they chose not to apprehend Marcus and instead just left him lying there and off. And God knows that shit doesn't surprise me anymore, but the fact that the writers seem to genuinely think they're getting away with this every single time they do it makes the time I had to stick my head in a toilet for a gag seem a lot less irritating by comparison. So Batwoman meets with Jada, telling her that she lost the buzzer and Marcus has it now, neither of which would have even happened if you chuckleheads weren't so fucking stupid. They have another scene that seems like it will never fucking end, where all they're doing is talking about their feelings. I'm sorry I couldn't stop him. No, I'm the one who should be saying that. I failed Marcus like I failed you. I couldn't acknowledge the love I had for you. When I don't want to get hurt, I put up a wall. Please don't be like me, Ryan. On and on and on it goes. God damn it, just shut up already. No one fucking cares about this. Eventually, we cut to Luke reinstalling the AI. He tells his dad that he was just using the suit to protect himself from things he didn't want to face, and the AI says it's proud of him. Who gives a rat's ass? Then we cut back to the Joker's workshop where Marcus is. You know, because they didn't capture him when they had the chance to earlier. Off! Damn it! Can't believe this is shit! He checks out some laughing gas canisters. Kiki asks him who gets the last buzz left in the buzzer, and I truly could not care less. Cut to the sewer, because Alice is back to hanging around down there. Mary goes to see her, and she's dressed in black because she's going to the wake for that guy she killed. One of them, at least. The guy who still doesn't even have a name, by the way, which should tell you how important the writers think he is. Mary says that if she doesn't take responsibility for what she did, then she's no different than Kiki. And that's nice of her to say, but somehow I doubt it's going to involve her confessing what she did to the proper authorities, so I suspect it's all gonna end up being pretty meaningless. Also, Mary packed a bag for Alice, and even threw in enough cash for Alice to get far away from here. But Alice doesn't want to leave yet, even though everyone's hunting her, which has not been a thing since this storyline started, so beats me where they're getting it from. And the reason she doesn't want to leave is because she doesn't want to be Alice anymore. She doesn't want to be a sociopath anymore, so she wants Mary to help her get the Joker's joy buzzer. So Alice believes that the joy buzzer will somehow make her not crazy anymore. Why? The story is that the buzzer is like an on-off switch for people's empathy. Lack of empathy is not Alice's problem. Her problem, among other things, is that she experienced years of trauma and was then hypnotized into taking on an Alice in Wonderland gimmick. The two things are not the same. Alice, in her own sick, twisted up way does still have empathy, so more than likely all the buzzer would do is turn that off. Why even someone as nuts as Alice would think this is a good idea is asinine. The writers are trying to paint every version of sociopathy with the same brush, and I'm not remotely surprised that the dumbasses think it would be that simple, but it's not, so go f*** yourselves. And the episode ends at the Bat Gay Bar, where Sophie comes to meet Ryan so they can whine about their feelings again. Put a bullet in my fucking head and just end this shit for the love of God! Ryan wants to be real with Sophie, so she explains how she keeps people at arm's length, and she's lost a lot of people, and she's scared to lose anyone else, and blah blah blah. Please just cut to the chase! So Sophie says that she won't push Ryan, but finally Ryan says she doesn't have to. And I think you all know what happens next. I have subjected myself to every episode this shit show has produced for 3 seasons, and this might have been one of, if not the most agonizing episode to suffer through. Period. Jesus Christ. Every single important plot point involving taking down the villain takes a backseat to people whining about their fifis, and every time they do that, those scenes go on for so long, you'd think everything else in the episode didn't even matter. And basically, it didn't. Marcus releases Victor Zsasz just so he can be nerfed into oblivion within 3 scenes. Luke and Sophie have a perfect opportunity to easily capture Marcus, which they just say F you to because the writers need the last 2 episodes of the season to happen. Ryan and Jada spend several eternities repetitively hashing out their personal bullshit absolutely no one gives a rat's ass about. And Marcus labels Sophie Ryan's side piece at one point, which doesn't even feel like an insult, because really, that's all she is here. Every single scene she has is her bitching about Ryan and their relationship, even when she's on a supposedly vitally important mission. So fighting crime means nothing, people's fifis are the only things that matter, the characters are awful, the plot is getting stupider by the minute. That's it, I'm done. F*** this episode, do the bingo shit, and let's get the hell out of here. 2 more episodes to go. 2 more. Just 2 more. The end is in sight. F*** Batwoman. F*** the whole world. We can make it. We're almost there. Thanks so much for watching. And while you're here, leave a comment, ding the bell icon, and follow me on social media so you can always be notified when I upload new stuff. Links to all that and to my live streaming channel are down below. Thumbs up the video, share, subscribe, make sure you're still subscribed, and I'll be back with more soon. So stay tuned for that, do all the YouTube things, and I'll see you next time.